All right, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Tech Talk Live. I believe this is episode 53. If you're filling in your bingo cards at home, you should note that this is episode 53. So today we will be talking about content model designers and form design tools. And this is something that since the dawn of man, people have been asking about. So it's a requirement that a lot of people would like to see, functionality that people would like to see, the ability to model content models and form config and things like that without having to edit XML or fool around with that. So today we have Mike Priest with us, and Mike is a UX. Is your title UX architect, or UX lead, or what is it, Mike? Mike, you might be on mute.
Yeah, I was on mute there. It's kind of usability and design. It's all kind of front-end development.
Okay, cool. And Mike works for Abstractive, which is one of our platinum partners out of Alberta, Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's right.
All right, excellent. Well, Mike, you have a popular add-on and on addons.alfresco.com, and that add-on is the Alfresco Form Model Management add-on, and it's currently the highest rated add-on. So congratulations for that. That's cool.
Thanks very much.
Did you have such visions of grandeur when you created this tool?
Not particularly. I just I developed the application just to kind of look at model management in a different way, more in the light of a designer, and from an end user's perspective. And then, I don't know, I just kind of figured I'd throw it up. It's kind of a cool add-on. Seems to be quite useful, so that's good.
Yeah, yeah. So I know you've got a few slides prepared, and you want to give us a demo of the add-on. So I'll turn it over to you and let you do that. And then, as you know, if you've attended these before, I'll be heckling you halfway through your presentation to just ask questions that are either coming through in chat or that sort of come across my mind. So I'm going to go on mute, and I'll let you take it away.
Cool, sounds good.
Oh, wait, before you do, it's a requirement that I have to say that this session is being recorded. So don't say anything you wouldn't want your mom to hear. And and
I'll have to scratch a few things out.
And we, as always, Max puts the slides and the recorded presentation online for all of you guys and anyone else that wants it. So anyway, it's being recorded. Fair warning, and take it away, Mike.
Okay, so can you guys, I've got two monitors on here, and I'm not too sure which screen you guys are looking at.
Have you shared your screen yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I guess that would be a good start.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and share the screen, and then I'll let you know what we can see.
Okay.
All right, so we've got I've got your Abstractive email on the right and your form management dashboard. There we go. And now that's what I see.
So you just got the form management?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So this is just kind of one of the recent things I've added in. It's just a nice little dashboard to summarize everything. I'm gonna periodically just flip between the slides. They're very brief and not really fulfilled, I guess. Just bring this up. So I'll just give you a quick walkthrough on the dashboard and some things you may or may not have seen before. So for the model management, this is all dependent on your permissions. So I've basically just piggybacked off the admin Alfresco group. So if you're an admin, you're going to see a few more things. So kind of looking at forms as at a different view, being able to push as much as you can from your developers over to like an administration group where they can play around with validation, a bit of usability and labeling, stuff like that, without, of course, messing up your model and changing all your properties, your property names and prefixes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a quick model. And if this is lagging, just let me know, because I know WebEx can be a bit laggy sometimes.
It's pretty snappy right now. And just to set
Cool.
the scene, you're running Alfresco Enterprise with your add-on. And,
Yes.
And what we're seeing here is the main page of your add-on here. And the add-on installs just as an AMP.
Yes, it's just an AMP.
Okay, great.
So you'll notice it makes it really fast to actually get going, just to get your content model started, especially if you're not very familiar with the XML models within Alfresco. So basically, you just type in the model name and give it a namespace prefix, and it'll pre-populate your namespaces down here. And these are just the Alfresco kind of default imports for their models. So I'm going to go add an aspect, say, so whatever prefixes you've created in your properties when creating the model will basically be in this list here. I'll go ahead and add this. So this is kind of what I was saying, where basically you're looking at your content model from a completely different perspective. You're looking at it from creating out a form rather than creating out properties that are managed in a database that you're saving data to. For an end user, they don't really care how the database is managed or anything like that. They just kind of know what they want people to enter, and looking from metadata as a pure, as raw data. You're not really the kind of things you're thinking about is not the same as what your end user will be. So if I just kind of put in some stuff here, you'll see the form will start changing as you're playing around with it. Your titles are completely separated from your properties, obviously. So if people go in playing with this, they're not going to mess anything up. So if I just say this here, there's some Alfresco. So I'm in the admin group right now. So the Alfresco properties, the accordion here will be available to only the administrators. There's a few things in here for indexing information, which is fairly new. Your property names and your property types. So I've saved that form now, and that is actually now available. It's using the hot deploy method. The really nice thing about using this model manager is you're not just creating a form to at the end build an XML content model and then use it as you normally would. What you're actually able to do is there's kind of let's say a duplicate right now where when you create this form, it creates a JSON representation of your model, and then it's going to have lots more information about that particular model, and it's more of a form model. So like example tips, stuff like that, validation. There's a long list of stuff that you can put in there. Imp asks are actually fairly popular. So if I just add in something like this and save it, and then I'm going to go and preview this in a profile. If nobody's familiar with what the profiles are, I'll get to that in just a second. Preview it. Where did I go? Okay, there we go. It's right here. So this is actually, again, it's already been deployed. And to kind of go further on with the idea of having this separate model for more of kind of a form UI model, you can start doing stuff like this. So you've got a completely different representation of data. You're not stuck with your typical input field or drop-down list, stuff like that. You can start using some really creative UI tools to be able to represent data in much more usable way. Right now, you can't really do that with the form stuff within Alfresco. So there's a few different there's a few different things that I've kind of touched on to improve on kind of what I thought would be better from a form perspective. And I'm just going to move over to my slides to see if I can bring it over. Where are we? I'm just going to share my desktop instead. Makes it a bit easier. So can you guys see those slides right now?
What we're seeing right now is the model manager.
Okay. Let me just bring that up. How do I actually bring up the slides from within WebEx? Trying to find that right now.
Well, you should just, if you have them in PowerPoint or something, you could just share the desktop and
share the desktop instead, yeah.
Yeah, and then just go into PowerPoint, and you can do slideshow from there. That might be the best thing. So let me, while you're doing that, do you mind if I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so it's just to back up a little bit. So it seems like so there's a model that exists, and the model, the way that your tool works, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that the model stays as sort of a developer-defined, admin-defined kind of thing, and then what you're providing is a way of saying, okay, there are people who aren't necessarily developers or administrators who want to be able to define a form, and this tool, your tool, allows them to define that form, and sort of it adds a layer that's sits above the sort of out-of-the-box content model and Alfresco form service, right?
Yes.
So like, okay, and that form thing that you just showed briefly being defined, that gets persisted into the repository, and then you've got some ways of, you'll probably show in a second, some jQuery stuff or whatever that allows you to actually instantiate the form.
Exactly, yeah. So, and that's kind of what I'm going to bring across here is, that's the wrong one.
Hi, Mike. It's Max. The slides are actually uploaded.
You guys should be able to see them now, right?
Yeah,
I have them on that screen. Okay, cool. So, just getting back there, losing the phone, losing my presentation there. So basically, these are just some of the things that I've really took a look at what Alfresco's got on the forms. The usability, design control, things like hints, tips, stuff like that. Your different representation of data, like the sliders we just seen. Validation's quite limited. Most of it's a back-end process for doing that. So you're not getting that immediate response for validation, and I'll show you exactly what the FM stuff is doing with that. And basically, it's all just using jQuery. And being able to just manage relational data easily, it's kind of long-winded, and there's not really a nice way of doing that seamlessly. So relational data would basically be this idea of metadata profiles. It's kind of a mix between looking at this metadata profile versus a content type. So basically, a profile is being able to just say, I have a drop-down list that could be, let's say, for example, a document type. So if I just pull this up, I'll show you an example. So, for example, right here, if I'm looking at two different document types, depending on what the document type is, I may get a different collection of aspects, and that collection of aspects is basically a metadata profile. So you can actually manage them really easily by coming into DFM module. So let's say this form demo site. These are the two individual drop-down list items, and when I have a look at this particular item, you can see the two different aspects that are related to it. So if I just bring in that test default here and save that, when I bring this form up now, that relationship will be right there. So you can see hello world with the example tip is in there now. So it's a really quick way without having to do any server restarts and basically just managing those relationships. And it's just really, it works quite seamlessly. And the nice thing is you can actually start dominoing this. So you could have a number of different lists triggering a number of different aspects going along that. So one of the other main issues that I always kind of found with the Alfresco content model was constraints. So these lists that you're managing for drop-down lists like that, they're not modular for one. You can't really have two different aspects share the same constraints, not easily. So one thing that I added in to the module is just the ability to have this drop-down management. So I can create different drop-down lists and map those values. So these would be those values that you're seeing in that little application there. So if I start adding, I can add some new things in here. The really nice thing is that because these constraints aren't managed in the Alfresco content model, you can have a use case where, let's say, for example, you're dealing with kind of an architecture group and they're managing a list of building names. If one of those buildings have been destroyed or whatever, you don't want people to see that that building ID in your list anymore. Of course, all your historical data is going to still have that list, that value, but you don't want people to enter that anymore because you're not using the Alfresco content model. You can actually do that through here. You can remove it. It'll keep your historical data. It won't blow it up. It's basically just a reference. So I thought that was kind of a nice little feature to add on there.
Yeah, that is nice. What about localization? So I see this requirement a lot, which is people want to be able to localize their drop-down lists and show.
Yeah. For example, what, sorry?
Well, so like you've got your values contract, right? And your label says contract, but maybe I want to localize that so that when German people are looking at my form, they see they see the German word for contract.
That's a good question. Actually, one of the items in the roadmap is to localize the entire forms. So basically, what I would be doing is in your form builder, you would have in your aspect options here a drop down list of different locales, and basically you would start off with these labels here with whatever language you started off with. That would be your defaults. When you change that drop-down list, it would just replace these labels with, for example, FR, French underscore, whatever these are, so you can replace them. So basically, you would just change this again as if you were recreating the form, save it, and then it would basically just use the locale to pick which one. And that would basically work the same way that Alfresco works with just having different. It would just dynamically just manage some properties files within the back end. So I should probably show you guys kind of the link between the model and the JSON model that we have. If I just go into data dictionary models, there's two different folders. The folder, this constraint space, basically just manages JSON lists of those list items or constraints. And your JSON models are basically a representation of your content model that would basically have all these extra properties for tooltips, minimum, maximum lengths, CSS class names, multiples, that your traditional Alfresco content model stuff, and some neat things for validation, verification, stuff like that. So you can see it's pretty much a JSON representation, your XML model. And the really nice thing about that is you can query it nice. You don't need an XML parser. You can pull this, you can use the API from the FM manager to quickly grab whatever content model you're looking for or search for a particular aspect. And then you've got it in JSON, it's an object, you can play around with it really easy. Just kind of handy. So getting back to these slides. So those are just some of the things that I kind of took a look at from the Alfresco content model and saw things I didn't like and kind of played around with. Hopefully it's tackled some of those difficulties. Some things that have changed, you know, removing the constraints, being able to have your technical staff come in and play around with less so much technical stuff. So this is an example. Right now, I've just logged in with a user that's not in the admin group, and you can see that they can't manage the models. They can't start adding new properties. You could change that if you wanted, but I'd say no. You can play around with labels because they're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna affect your actual model itself from a programming perspective. The Alfresco properties that we saw before are no longer there, so they can play around with their validation as much as they want. And one of the, you know, another one of the really neat features is there's not really a nice way of right now when you deploy a model, you can hot deploy it, which is great, but there's not really a nice way of being able to dynamically say these are the fields I want to see on the Alfresco front end, right? So let's say, for example, I'm going to go and show you. This is a customization I've just added onto the doc library. So this is actually using the form manager form. So I've got the form management stuff on the right here, and I've got Alfresco's default stuff on the left. So you can see that if I change this document type, I'm going to get these different collections of aspects. Now the nice thing is you've got all of your different usability stuff in there. You can, yeah, you've got your tips, your validation for things like, you know, your input masks, and you can see here that I can't enter anything else but those characters. And you've got things like your date pickers and stuff that you can piggyback off jQuery, which is kind of nice. So
let me stop you there. Hold on, Mike. So this is a great view right here because it shows what's available out of the box on the left that people might configure with share form custom or whatever. And but on the right it shows your approach. If you change that document type from contract to amendment or whatever the other, I can't remember, or abstract or amendment, yeah. That'll actually change the, that'll specialize the type that's behind the scenes whenever you save this, or?
No, the document type that I'm using right here isn't actually like a content type. It's just a regular property that I'm just using right now. But you could do that if you wanted to.
Okay, I see. So so this document type here is just a piece of metadata, and then you're using that to sort of select which of these aspect fields that you want to populate, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then do you then, if you, so let's say you pick amendment and you fill in a page count and a receive date, then are you, when this object gets saved, are you actually going in and doing an add aspect on the
yes.
object? Okay.
Yes, it is, exactly. So I'll show you, let's see if I can pull this up. It's going to do a page refresh real quick, but basically what it'll do is, let's see if I can pick this up really quick. So actually you can see the validation here as well. So if I try to save this, this is what I was talking about with the real-time validation. Basically, we'll go through and highlight everything that's required, or you can add in your own custom validation really quite easily, but just by using jQuery. So you know, there's no backend. There's actually two different things. There's your validation on the front end here. That's basically jQuery going through and doing some checks. But there's also a validation on the back end, which is actually quite handy. That we'll go through. Let me just bring this up here. So if I'm just going to try and move these to records, and it's going to try and validate these. So this is the back-end process doing a validation. This is all using the form management API. So you guys should be able to see this, where basically it's going to go look through each individual aspect, and it's going to go look through each individual required field and whatever other validation I have, and it'll come back with a quite detailed description of why it failed. So this property failed because it's null and it's required. So there is, it does have that kind of, peace of mind that you do have a back-end process doing it. It's not just the front end. So I'm going to save this and see. Damn it, it's too quick. Okay. Basically, what it'll do is when you do a save, it creates a JSON object of what aspects that it needs and kind of key value pairs of the property name and its value, and it's also got information passed through for what the actual property type is. So if it's a date versus integer and that kind of stuff. And what I'm actually using is I'm using the .data jQuery framework. So basically, you can store local information on particular fields. So when I'm actually looking this particular field here, jQuery has actually got an internal storage for with data saying, okay, this is a property type of just text. It's got this validation on it. It's required or not. So it's really easy to actually just grab that object and query it and find out what you want to know about that particular field. So this is kind of how it looks on more of a high-level view. You have Alfresco you can have your constraints in here, and it has all your form data. So we're using the jQuery plugin. You basically send it. You can give it a URL to post all the data to, whether that's looking at Alfresco or not. You can actually send it to wherever you want. The jQuery plugin itself can live outside Alfresco if you want. You can just use JSONP to go cross-domain if that's what you wanted to do. But the nice thing is because it's jQuery that's managing the form, and it's actually creating and generating the form. All it requires is that JSON object, which is obviously the representation of the content model that we've seen. So wherever that lives, you could have an application outside of Alfresco on a website that goes back, grabs that JSON object, and then populates it. So you can actually still manage it in one place and use it on different applications. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
And using the constraints in the way that we're using it right now, you can actually, if you want, just going back here, is if I look at something with a drop down, or add a drop down even, I could actually populate this from a script. So if I actually just grab one of these and just copy this location. Paste that in. Okay, need to give it a name. So you can see that's now using the drop-down management stuff up here as a service, so that we can manage these drop-downs in one place over here and use them on multiple drop-down lists if we wanted to.
Yeah.
So
cool
you could also
that you could point to any service and pull those.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So you could have an external service managing your building names or whatever, and then bring that in so that, and that, I've actually seen, quite a few clients have asked for stuff like that. So that, it's kind of nice to have. So this, let's go back to my forms. So at a high level view, you can kind of see where I'm going with the constraints and the form data, stuff like that. Kind of separate everything out so that everything doesn't have to be in Alfresco. It's really nice to manage it all in one place, which is kind of what you're doing with the form management administration console. But then you can actually take that form and run with it and go with the places. So one of the common things people have mentioned is really 3 lines of code to get started. Yes, it is. So let me just show you exactly what that is. So this is just a single form that I've just brought in. And if I look at the page source on here, this is all I've done. I have this function that brings in. This is the initialization for the form. My HTML div class here, that's basically the wrapper for the form, is declared one-liner. And this object right here is actually coming from the back end. So if I bring that up, let's see if I can show you guys that. So this is all that I've done to call. It just goes off to Alfresco to the aspect, to property service call, and I'm just saying, okay, I want this aspect. Because we're using that, because we're using the data, the jQuery data store, these are actually instanceable. So you can have as many forms as you want. So one of the common things people have mentioned, and this is probably something I will do, is being able to use something like the 960 grid or something, so that people can say, okay, I want one form on the left hand, and just putting them into columns and saying, okay, I want 3 columns of forms. Well, this actually, because it's instanceable, you can have it as crazy as you want from the design. And this is actually using 2 different forms right in here. So if I pull this up, I've got this one form that's kind of acting on its own, and then I've got kind of a records piece here that is also it's a separate form and it applies separately, so they don't clash with each other from a DOM perspective. They're completely independent, so they could actually be sent off to different points. One saves to Alfresco, one saves to somewhere else. So it's kind of nice to have, and that's kind of one of the newer changes that I've added into the FM module, because it was kind of a requirement for one of our clients, and it wasn't in there when I first put it up, so that might be new to some people. Let's move this back over here. So you can see, as at its simplest, yeah, you're dealing with 3 or 4 lines of code. It's really not very much. But if you take a look at the documentation, there's actually quite a lot you can extend with the form. There's 2 different inputs. You can either give it tell the delimited list of aspects, or you could give it profiles instead. Really, it doesn't matter. You can customize every single bit of the form itself before or after it's been loaded. There's a lot of club functions for once the form's been drawn, once it's been drawn, once it's loaded, or once you've saved it. So there's callbacks for all that kind of stuff. So you can really get nitty-gritty if you want.
So sorry, Mike, what code is actually rendering the form controls? Is that your code, or is that jQuery, something that jQuery does for you? I'm a little bit fuzzy on that part.
That's something that I'm using jQuery to do it, but it's part of the plugin that I developed. Okay. See if I can bring that up actually, so I can kind of show you guys that. So that's actually one good point to mention, is the validation that that the front end uses to go through and give you that feedback is it's a separate script from the like the form jQuery plugin that basically builds everything. And I've done that on purpose so that if anyone wants to put in their own validation on that, it's they can just throw in their own validation scripts and not have to worry about clashing and binding stuff to the right to the same events and stuff. So if I just bring this up here. So if I just show you guys here, there's a bunch of templates and methods in here that basically are a specific template for a specific field type. So you could actually extend these and customize them to your heart's content if you wanted to. So this is basically just the jQuery plugin that will takes in the that JSON object and passes it out and throws it onto the UI and builds it through these templates. Okay, so so this is kind of tracking back a bit here. I kind of got lost there. Like I was mentioning before, if you've got specific fields that you want to show and hide, like it's really hard to do that within Alfresco right now. So let's say this hello world example stuff. If I have a look at the validation properties and choose hidden and save that, it'll actually hide it from the UI now. If I go edit this and select here, so you can see that it's no longer there. You just got the example service. So that's kind of a real quick way of being able to hide and show things. The nice thing is that the field is actually still there. It's just hidden. So if you wanted to use, you can see that down here. If you wanted to use that, use kind of a hidden field within specific aspects to kind of store stuff when you're in around, it's kind of a real handy thing to do. I've actually used that in this little application here, where this list of document types is dependent on the site that I'm looking at. So that's kind of why this is named form demo-site. It's basically just taken the site ID up here, dependent-site, looks for it as JSON for the constraints. So if I create a different site, I can use a completely different list if I wanted to. I'm not going to do that because it'll take too much time. So if I go back over here, so using the form management in kind of different lights, whether you're using it for Alfresco purposes through the editing the metadata through the document library, and using those same forms and initializing it in different ways, you can get different results. So this is kind of an advanced search stuff that I've thrown in that you can basically search based on these different collections of aspects or just individual properties, if you like. So you can see that there's no required information anymore, and that's kind of one of the Boolean triggers in the plugin, is to say, okay, is this you're using this for search? Are you required information? Yes or no? So if I do a search on contract here, you can see this is an example. Oh, this is the okay. So this is just using looking at the document details, and this is your form management stuff here and the basic Alfresco stuff. It's just a view, but this is a custom view. One too many. So this is a custom view where I'm using the same document details viewer, but this form on the right-hand side here is just the FM stuff. It's not. I'm not using the actual the component that the document details is. But the nice thing is, you can customize this now so you can actually add metadata while looking at your document. So you can actually reference, if there's things in the document, you can reference that and enter your metadata in. So it's kind of a neat little customization there. So you can, like you can see kind of the different ways how it makes it really easy to manage whether you're just looking at the view, whether you're looking at your validation from a front end, or just the usability of the form itself. It's really kind of taken the forms to a different light, and hopefully you guys can actually see how I'm looking at this in a completely different way. I'm not looking at it from a properties database perspective. I'm looking at it from more of a front end and usability perspective. So I can run down a few different. I can run down a few of the different some of the new stuff that's in the FN. One of them, which is this filter on the right hand side. It's kind of a neat way to just quickly filter through all your aspects. Before it was just kind of a long list that would just scroll. So I added that in. It was kind of annoying doing that. So I'm not sure if anyone's actually played around with the UI very much, but there's a lot of drag and drop in here. So if you want to reorganize things, you can do that really quite easily without having to deal with XML. Hopefully you guys have also noticed I've played a lot with these forms through this demo, through validation, just form styling, stuff like this. And I've not touched code at all. So if you were comfortable with your business or your business crowd, or some of the data entry clerks or whatever, they could actually go through and play around with this stuff and not have to worry about screwing things up like this. I don't have
so Mike, let me ask you a couple of questions that have come in from people watching this. So Zhang is asking if what Alfresco versions this works with. I think you've got that on your project page, but you might want to.
Yeah, it's on the project page. I've everything from 3.2 plus.
3.2 forward, enterprise as well as community, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. And so if let's say we're starting from total, scratch, you've got install directions on your site, and those seem to be pretty good. But do you envision people still creating a content model, types and aspects and things like that, and getting that in place, and then you come in here and use this tool to kind of map that model to usable forms, basically?
Yeah, I mean, you could do it either way. Like one of the features in here is you can take an existing model, throw it into the data dictionary models, and the form management will actually pass it out and make it available in here. So it'll bring out all your aspects and stuff. Or you could actually just develop your content model straight from here and not have to touch XML at all.
As long as you're just creating aspects, because
exactly, yeah. Types. Yeah, right now there's no way of creating types. It's kind of one thing that I might add in. I don't know. I was kind of waiting for some feedback off a few people around whether using this side of your metadata profiles and versus content types, and I don't know. We've had a few discussions around that. So.
And then, so I guess we've already sort of talked about how labels. Well, did we talk about how labels can be localized? Like how does?
Yes.
Okay.
So right now it's not available, but basically it would just be in your aspect options here. You just have a drop-down list of different locales, and it would switch your properties that you could change there. Enter in your own conversions, your own translations of those labels. But that's in the roadmap.
Okay, cool.
Bearing in mind, this is just something I'm doing from home and just playing around. So I don't get to spend too much time developing it.
Speaking of that, are you if people download this and they and they have some enhancements that they want to make to it. Are you open to other contributors?
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah. Definitely.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Let's see. So there's a person. Ram is asking. First he says, "Great job on the plugin," but he says, "Is there a way? Do you have a preferred deployment approach from when you move from test to production?" So I guess that's a good question. So if someone was building these form models here in a test environment, and then they wanted to roll their form out to production, would that just be a matter of maybe exporting those objects?
Exactly. But basically what I would do is I'd come to your data dictionary models and export this. Only when you try and import it, you won't be able to import it directly to models. Export this as an ACP. Then create something like this. Create a folder, drop it into your company home, and then copy it from here into your data dictionary models, because importing that ACP into your data dictionary models will not work.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I found.
Yeah, we could probably also write a little CMIS script or something to snag those objects and move them across. So that'd be another idea. I don't know whether transfer service would be a good idea for that or not, or whether it would even work in that particular folder, but that would be another idea. So yeah, I mean, what's interesting is that everything that you're doing here is stored as content within the repo. So basically, any other approach that you would use to move nodes from one repo to another should work for this. And then obviously you've got things that are in the share in your web app, whether that's share or something else. You've got that code to migrate as well. But once you get, I guess once you get that set up, if you're just moving form definitions around, then there's probably not any code that you're moving. It's all content.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just one thing to mention as well. One of the common things people have mentioned is, when you go through and you start playing around with this stuff, like it's so easy to come in. Like if you go and you deploy this, people start using the form. If you like for testing or whatever, they've saved some information to the form. It's really easy to go and change your actual field type. So it's not going to change your property names. It'll just change the UI representation of the data. So if you try and delete stuff, everything is going to be the same as if you were dealing with the XML content model. If something's already saved in the repository and try and delete the field, it's not going to let you. It's going to fail on validation because you've got content stored with that information. So you have to remove those aspects first before you try and play around with that. And that's not a limitation to the form management. That's a limitation to kind of just how everything works with the content models.
Right.
So
I guess we've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to mention that that there are a couple of other add-ons related to modeling forms and content models. And there's Mike's that we've been talking about. There's also one called Alfresco Model Designer, and I believe that's Matthew Levery. I'm probably not saying his name correctly, but one of the differences in the approach between these two add-ons, Matthew's is focused on editing out of the box content model, XML, and web client config within the share UI. So it's like Mike's model is editing these objects that are sort of a layer on top of the form service. Matthew's approach is to edit directly the content XML and the web client config XML. And so I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying it's two different approaches, two different tools. And so if you're looking for these types of tools, you may want to decide which. I think they're complementary and they're used for different purposes. So you may want to look at that. We asked Matthew to join us, but he was unable to. So maybe we will have additional Tech Talk Live sessions in the future where we can look at some other tools as well. In addition to Matthew's, there's also one called Side Labs, and I believe that one is more of an Eclipse-based environment for designing content models and forms. And Jean-Christophe, I also asked him to join us, and he was unable to as well. So those are a few of the different options that are out there. But if you go to addons.alfresco.com, and it looks like Max has chatted the link there for you guys, and then click on search, and if you can just search for like model or content model or something, and you will see several things that pop up that might be interesting for your projects. So take a look at that. Have you, Mike? Have you looked at any of the other modeling tools just to see what's out there?
Yeah. I was actually looking at the model console for Share. Seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I think I've only used it briefly, but I think you have to. I think you would only let administrators and developers use it.
Yeah,
it's
it's more of a technical perspective, right? Yeah, I think you were dead on with that. They're both developing the content models, but in completely different use cases, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Are you? Do you have more slides that you wanted to go through?
No, I was actually just going to open it up to any questions, or if anybody wants to develop some cool stuff for this, like, it's open source. You can, by all means, I'm always happy to make some new friends and make some cool stuff.
Exactly. Hey Max, switch me over to be a presenter real quick, and I want to just give people a glimpse at what Matthew's tool looks like, and I'm not going to be able to give it a full demo because we don't have time, and I'm not deeply familiar with the tool. But I do want people just to get a feel for what it looks like. Let's see. So now I'm just having to. Okay, cool. So I'll just share my Firefox real quick. All right, cool. Mike, are you seeing my Firefox right now?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
All right. So basically, I'm in the Share UI, and you can get to this designer if you have to be logged in. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm logged in. If I go to More Model Designer, then now I can see sort of this page within Share that's meant for editing models and form configs. These, on the left, you see configuration and model. These are the out-of-the-box sort of example model files. But I went ahead and dropped in the sum code model from one of the tutorials on ecmarchitect.com, shameless plug, and the sum code model web client config, basically. So now you can see, here are my imports, here are my types. If I go into some code document, I can see that it's got a mandatory aspect of general classifiable, and I've got some associations defined here, related documents, association source, association target. And then if I go into the config for the form, I can see, here's my white paper node and the set of forms, the default form, etc. So, again, not a proper demo, but just giving people the idea that, that two very different ways of thinking about how to simplify creating content models and forms that go with that. And so those are just two of the add-ons that are out there. They happen to be the two most highly rated currently on add-ons.alfresco.com. So what other questions do we have? Do we have any questions, Max, or we've done such a great job that people are fully informed? Let's see, Seth says, best webinar yet. And can we see your unicorn background one more time? I wondered what that was. Can you flash that for us, Mike? It's the crowd pleaser.
Yeah, sure. You can switch me over.
Yeah,
it's actually
you're the presenter, so you can share your desktop now, and we can get a full look at this unicorn here.
It's a deer, but okay. Can you guys see that?
Too bad. I see just a black screen right now for some reason. I don't see a deer or a unicorn.
Let's see if I can switch.
Steph is going to look disappointed.
See if I can switch that to my other desktop.
All right. While you're looking for the unicorn pic, I'll look at. Oh, here we go. Oh, that's not a unicorn. That's there. Now it's gone. Seth, I hope that gave you your hooved mammal fix for the day. Let's see. It doesn't look like there are any more questions. Oh, go ahead.
It's actually that background's from it's a site called Desktopography. They do like a lot of digital design. Like their backgrounds are like high resolution, really good quality. So cool. Some background on that. So yeah, right. Seth, if you're looking for some unicorns, Desktopography.
Desktopography. All right. See, we are a full service webinar here. We get into the Alfresco stuff, we get into the desktop stuff. You never know what you're going to get at Talk Live. So great. Well, hey, Mike, thanks for showing us this add-on, and awesome work, and congratulations on being the highest rated add-on at the moment, and that's very cool. And Alan is pointing out that IE9 doesn't work with add-ons. So Richard Esplin, here's another person using IE9 who can't use add-ons. So I guess we need to bump that up in the priority a little bit. Sorry, Alan. We know that we have IE9 issues right now. It just hasn't been a priority based on the traffic coming to the website. Very few people using it, but we will look at that. And Richard is the man, so we'll get that fixed. Mike, again, thank you very much, and we will do this again. We do this on the first Wednesday of every month at the same time. And what's our topic next month, Max? I should know this, but I don't. I guess Max is maybe on mute or something. Yeah. Hey, Max, what's up? What's the topic next month? Yeah.
Well, next month's topic is new client configuration and extension points in Share.
Oh, excellent. So this sort of goes right along with the theme. So if you're looking to do Share customizations, Alfresco 4 has a lot of new hook points and extension places, and so we'll be talking about that. So if you're doing any sort of Share customization, make sure to join us next month. All right, well, this wraps it up. Did you want to say anything to close us out here, Mike?
Yes, well, thanks a lot for having me. Hopefully you guys might have learned something new on that module, or at least kind of get you up to speed with what kind of the direction of where I'm going with it. And hopefully you can find it useful.
Yeah, definitely. All right, guys. Well, we'll send out the slides and a recording of the webinar within a day or two. And other than that, see you next time.